Over the top? No, we had no over the top rules. We were totally reasonable, thoughtful parents who made solid decisions at every turn.
Ron Howard's story begins long before he became one of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood. Born on March 1, 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma, Ronald William Howard was surrounded by show business from the very beginning. His father, Rance Howard, was an actor and writer, and his mother, Jean Spiegel Howard, was an actress as well. They weren't rich or famous, but they were passionate about the craft. When Ron was just 18 months old, his parents noticed that he had a natural charm in front of the camera. By the time he was 2, he was already appearing in commercials and small television roles. Most children play outside, get dirty, and live carefree lives. But Ron's childhood was very different. He spent his early years on sets, surrounded by adults, cameras, and bright lights. At the age of 6, he got his big break as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. Audiences loved the red-headed boy with the sweet smile, and soon, Ron became a household name. But fame at that age came with a price. He had to memorize lines instead of learning how to ride a bike or play baseball after school. While other kids were exploring the world, Ron was learning how to handle fame and pressure. His parents tried to give him a normal life, but Hollywood never truly allows that. Behind the laughter and applause, Ron was growing up in a world that demanded perfection. While The Andy Griffith Show made him famous, it also trapped him. Ron Howard became Opie in the eyes of millions, and that label followed him everywhere. Even when he went to school, other kids didn't treat him like a normal child. Some admired him, but others teased or avoided him. The constant attention became overwhelming. He once said that he loved acting but hated the attention that came with it. People expected him to always smile, always behave, and never make mistakes. For a young boy, that kind of pressure can be heavy. Ron's parents did everything they could to protect him. They managed his money carefully and made sure he didn't fall into the traps that destroy many child stars. Still, the emotional toll was real. When The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, Ron was just 14, but he had already spent most of his life working. The fame that had once seemed exciting now felt like a cage. He wanted to be more than the little boy from TV. However, escaping that image would prove much harder than he thought. After The Andy Griffith Show, he landed another popular role in Happy Days, where he played Richie Cunningham. Once again, he was a fan favorite, the clean-cut, kind-hearted teenager everyone adored. But deep inside, Ron worried that he would never be seen as a serious actor or artist. The industry loved him as the good kid, but that image left no room for growth. He began dreaming about life behind the camera, where he could control the story instead of just being a part of it. As Ron entered his 20s, the challenges of being a former child star became even clearer. Many casting directors couldn't see him as anyone other than Opie or Richie. He auditioned for serious film roles but was turned down again and again. Hollywood can be cruel. Once it puts you in a box, it rarely lets you out. Some people even mocked him, saying that he'd peaked before adulthood. It was a harsh reality for someone who had given his entire youth to the industry. But Ron wasn't ready to give up. He decided to study film and learn everything he could about directing and storytelling. He started watching films not just as entertainment, but as lessons. He studied camera angles, lighting, and dialogue. What others saw as a career decline, Ron saw as a chance to rebuild himself. Still, it wasn't easy. Many people doubted his dream of becoming a director. They thought he was too young and inexperienced. One studio executive even told him, "You're a nice guy, Ron, but no one will take you seriously behind the camera." Instead of giving in, Ron used that doubt as motivation. He directed his first short film while still acting on Happy Days. It was a small project, but it gave him a taste of creative freedom. For the first time, he was telling a story his own way. He realized that his true passion wasn't in front of the camera anymore. It was behind it. Ron Howard's journey as a director officially began in the late 1970s. His first major directing project was the low-budget comedy Grand Theft Auto in 1977. He co-wrote the script and even starred in the film. But this time, his focus was on directing. Despite its small budget, the movie was a financial success, earning more than 10 times its cost. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it proved something important. Ron Howard could direct. This success opened new doors for him. He began directing episodes of television shows and small films, slowly earning respect in the industry. But his real breakthrough came in 1982 with Night Shift, starring Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler. The film's success showed that Ron could handle comedy and complex characters. From there, he moved on to Splash in 1984, which became a huge box office hit and made Tom Hanks a star. Suddenly, the former child actor was being talked about as one of Hollywood's most promising young directors. Still, Ron stayed humble. He didn't chase fame or glamour. Instead, he focused on learning and improving. He wanted every movie he made to have heart, something that audiences could connect with. He often said that storytelling was about emotion, not special effects. That philosophy became the foundation of his career. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Ron Howard directed a string of successful films: Cocoon, Parenthood, Backdraft, and Apollo 13. Each one showed his range as a filmmaker. Apollo 13 especially became a defining moment in his career. The film, based on the true story of NASA's failed lunar mission, earned critical acclaim and reminded audiences of Howard's incredible storytelling skill. It won 2 Academy Awards and cemented Ron's place among Hollywood's top directors. But even during his success, Ron faced challenges. Being a perfectionist took a toll on his health and personal life. He worked long hours, often away from his family, and felt constant pressure to deliver hit after hit. Hollywood can be quick to celebrate success, but even quicker to forget it. After a few films that didn't perform well at the box office, critics began to question if he had lost his touch. Ron, however, didn't let failure define him. Instead, he treated every setback as a lesson. He once said, "You can't control whether people love your work, but you can control how much heart you put into it." That attitude helped him rebuild time and again. What makes Ron Howard different from many other filmmakers is his humility. Despite decades in Hollywood, he never became arrogant or distant. Crew members and actors often describe him as calm, kind, and deeply respectful. He creates an environment where everyone feels valued. Maybe that comes from his early days as a child actor, when he saw both the good and bad sides of the industry. He promised himself that if he ever had power, he would use it to create a better experience for others. Ron's films often reflect his personal values: honesty, hard work, and hope. Whether it's A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, or Rush, his movies focus on human emotion and the strength to overcome challenges. They're not just stories about success, they're stories about resilience. His directing style is simple, but powerful. He doesn't rely on flashy effects or complicated visuals. Instead, he tells stories that touch people's hearts. That's why his films have aged so well and continue to inspire new generations of filmmakers. While Ron Howard's career kept growing, he never forgot his roots. He married his high school sweetheart, Cheryl Alley, in 1975, and they've been together ever since. A rare thing in Hollywood. They raised 4 children, and Ron often says that family is the true measure of success. His daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, followed in his footsteps and became a talented actress and director herself. Seeing her grow in the same industry, but on her own terms, has been one of Ron's proudest joys. Ron's legacy goes beyond awards and box office numbers. He represents something pure about Hollywood: the belief that hard work, kindness, and creativity still matter. Even after decades in the business, he continues to learn and adapt. He's directed documentaries, produced television shows, and even explored modern storytelling through streaming platforms. No matter how the industry changes, Ron Howard remains a symbol of consistency and integrity. When people look at Ron Howard's career, it's easy to see only the success, the awards, the fame, the respect. But behind that success is a man who struggled, doubted himself, and worked harder than anyone imagined. His story reminds us that reinvention is possible. You can start as a child star, face rejection, and still rise again through passion and persistence. Today, Ron continues to direct and produce films, not because he needs to, but because he loves storytelling. His journey from a small-town boy to a Hollywood icon is proof that dreams don't have to fade. They just evolve. He once said, "The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing." Those words reflect everything he stands for. Ron Howard's life is not just about fame, it's about resilience. He grew up in a world that tried to define him too early, yet he managed to redefine himself on his own terms. His story is a reminder that even in a world full of bright lights and loud voices, the quiet ones with determination often shine the longest. Ron Howard's story begins long before he became a Hollywood legend. Born Ronald William Howard on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, he was destined for the spotlight. His parents, Rance and Jean Howard, were both actors with dreams of their own, though they never reached the fame their son eventually would. The Howards moved to Hollywood when Ron was still a toddler, chasing opportunities in film and television. What they didn't know then was that their little boy would become one of the most recognizable faces in American entertainment. Ron's charm and natural ability to connect with an audience were evident even at a young age. He made his first on-screen appearance in Frontier Woman at just 18 months old. By age 6, he had landed the role of Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. His freckled face and sweet innocence won over viewers, and soon, little Opie became a national treasure. But behind that adorable smile was a young boy learning the price of fame. Childhood for Ron was not playgrounds and adventures. It was long filming days, memorizing lines, and maintaining a perfect image. His parents worked hard to keep him grounded. They tried to shield him from Hollywood's darker side, teaching him humility and discipline. Yet, it's impossible for a child growing up in front of millions to stay completely untouched. Fame became both a blessing and a burden. The world saw him as a happy, carefree kid, while inside, he was quietly navigating a world that often didn't make sense to him. When The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, Ron was only 14 years old. For most kids, life would just be beginning. But for Ron, it felt like something huge had ended. He had already spent more than half his life working in Hollywood, and suddenly he wasn't sure who he was without Opie. Typecasting became his biggest enemy. People adored him, but only as the sweet little boy from Mayberry. Casting agents often said, "He's talented, but too recognizable." That rejection hit Ron hard. He wanted to prove he could do more, to act in different roles, to be taken seriously as an artist. But the world wasn't ready to see him that way. During his teenage years, Ron took small roles in films and guest appearances on TV just to stay visible. However, even those opportunities came with conditions. Some producers asked him to act more like Opie, a reminder that he couldn't easily escape the character that made him famous. The struggle wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. As a teenager, Ron faced bullying from classmates who resented his fame. They teased him, saying things like, "Hey TV boy, where's Andy?" or "Say your line from the show." These moments made him feel isolated. Yet instead of becoming bitter, Ron learned patience. He once said in an interview, "Every time someone underestimated me, I just worked harder." That mindset would carry him through the toughest years of his life. After high school, Ron attended the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, but he didn't graduate. He left early to pursue filmmaking full-time, believing experience would teach him more than a classroom could. Still acting in Happy Days as Richie Cunningham, he started directing small short films between episodes. His colleagues were supportive, but many doubted he would succeed. After all, child actors rarely transitioned into successful directors. His breakthrough came with the 1977 film Grand Theft Auto, a modest action comedy that he co-wrote, starred in, and directed. Made on a small budget, it turned a decent profit and gave Ron a new identity. Not as the boy from Mayberry, but as a filmmaker with potential. More importantly, it gave him confidence. He realized that behind the camera, he had control. He could tell stories his own way. The success of Grand Theft Auto caught the attention of producers, leading to his next big project, Night Shift, 1982, starring Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler. The film's blend of humor and heart reflected Ron's developing style, one that focused on characters, not just spectacle. Then came Splash, 1984, the romantic comedy that turned Tom Hanks into a star. Suddenly, Hollywood began to see Ron Howard not as a child star, but as a serious director. Throughout the 1980s, Ron refined his craft. He wasn't interested in flashy filmmaking. His goal was always storytelling. Whether it was fantasy, Willow, drama, Parenthood, or science fiction, Cocoon, he found ways to make his films feel deeply human. His characters weren't perfect heroes. They were flawed, relatable, and real. Then came Apollo 13 in 1995, a film that would define his legacy as a director. The story of NASA's failed moon mission captured the courage and teamwork of ordinary people under extraordinary pressure. Starring Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton, the movie was both a critical and commercial success. It earned 9 Academy Award nominations and won 2. The film's famous line, "Houston, we have a problem," became part of American culture. What stood out most was Ron's ability to turn a technical, space-based story into a deeply emotional journey. He focused not just on the astronauts, but also on their families, their fears, and their determination. That's what made the film resonate. It wasn't about space, it was about humanity. Ron Howard is known in the industry as one of the kindest and most disciplined directors in Hollywood. Crew members often describe him as calm under pressure, respectful, and incredibly prepared. He arrives on set early, studies every angle, and treats everyone